Number one is hide what others will exploit. What we're talking about is the Aspie's arsenal for self-defense. I was originally going to call this the Aspie's toolbox, but I got to thinking about it. These points that I put together have more to do with defending ourselves from those who are outside. You know, the hive mind where those people are constantly fighting to get on top. Well, they don't stop to do that when they come into the uncanny valley where I live. They still are trying to fight to get on top of everyone else. It's just their nature. It's the way they do it. And they look for vulnerable things in our personalities, our traits, our lives, anything they can exploit, they will go after that. So those weak spots in your life, those things that cause you pain, they love to find out what those are. Now, if the person is a full-blown psychopath or a full-blown narcissist, I mean, they will really go after you. But the other three people in the hive mind, the neurotypical people, maybe not quite so much as others, but still, why take a chance? Try to hide those weaknesses and the things that cause you pain if you can. A lot of times, we just can't do it. Number two is this: make a kind act list. Yeah, seriously. Years ago, I started doing this, and because I would go through life and people were so mean and so rude and people just jerks, you know, neurotypical people. But then I stopped and thought about it. You know, I'm focusing on the bad things they do, not on the good things they do. For example, say you're driving down the street, somebody stops and lets you into traffic. Do you stop and think about that? No, you don't think about it. But somebody cuts you out, that you think about, and you just dwell on it. So I found that if I started making a list, I mean daily, as I go through life and people say something nice to me, maybe somebody at the grocery store, because that's about the only place I go, they say something nice and kind or maybe help me. I mean, when I go to the grocery, I go at like 6 in the morning when they first open because I don't like to be around people. But there is a woman there, and her job is to help people at the checkout counter. You know, the self-checkout, that time of day, that's all they got. And she is so helpful, so I pay attention to that. You know what? A lot of times I pay them back. You know, I'll pay them a compliment. Or maybe, you know, some businesses, you go to Google, and they have a place where you can say something kind or give a positive review or a negative review of a business. So sometimes I'll do that to pay them back. You know, name them by name. Very kind and helpful. Number three, and we've got 23 of these, so I'm going through them very quickly. I don't want to spend a full minute on each one of them. I want to just touch on them. And you can expand all you want, stop and think about it. But number three is embrace change. Okay, I'm going to make some people mad. You know, this climate change thing, and everybody is so afraid of climate change. I don't want the climate to stop changing. I mean, what if it does? The climate has always changed. As long as there's been a climate, it's been changing. Yeah, I know what they mean. They mean man-made climate change is what they're fighting against, but they're using, I don't want to say it's a terror tactic, but it's a scare tactic to get us to comply with whatever it is they want. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but the point is they're using change rather as a fear tactic. I don't want that kind of change. I want things to keep changing because, well, that's how we grow. Now, imagine when you were born. I was born 70 years ago, 70 years and I don't know, maybe 9 months ago. What if I hadn't changed? I'd still be a baby. I probably wouldn't have survived. So change is a good thing. We need to learn to embrace it, not fear it, even if it's negative. Talk about that in a minute. Number four is prepare for the worst. Talk about negative change. Have a plan B. Okay, so you're going to apply for a job. What if you don't get it? Do you have a plan B? Yeah, I do. Apply for another job. Okay, what if you do get the job? Now, if you have autism, Asperger syndrome, high-functioning autism as I do, working a job is really tough because people just don't like you. You know, the people who live in the hive mind, the neurotypical people, they don't understand you, and you live in that uncanny valley, and they just see you as kind of weird. They push you away, and I understand that. So I have come to terms with that is going to happen. So I have a plan B. What if that happens? I want to have something that I'm ready to do if and when, I should say, I get pushed out. Now, virtually every job I ever had, I lost within 6 months. Now, there was one job that was an exception. I got a job working in a shoe store in their management, what would you call it? Management training. And the name of the shoe store chain was Payless. And I found out there's a reason they call it Payless, because they don't pay you very much. And that was the only job I ever had that I didn't earn enough to pay my bills. And so it didn't last very long. But, prepare for the worst. Number 5, value. Value a good name. Now, I like to emphasize that your character is who you truly are, and your reputation is who other people say you are. So you could have a very bad reputation, but you have good character because, well, again, that's what people do. They go into these smear campaigns and try to destroy each other to elevate themselves. We need to be aware of that. And we need to be aware in our arsenal, our defensive arsenal, that we have self-protection, that shield. We need to prepare and let people know this is what I believe, and demonstrate your character traits, your honesty. And if there's anything an Aspie is known for, people with autism are known for, it's honesty. It's almost clinical. They can't not be honest, and there are exceptions, obviously. But let people know, that you're honest. Now, some of them still going to trash it, but that's okay. Keep your good name in front. Number 6, the next defensive tool is to be unlike those you dislike. If you dislike somebody, there is a reason you dislike them. It's probably because they hurt you. Now, the neurotypical people who live in the neurotypical hive mind, they dislike people because they're in their way. But as a person with autism, that could be true of you, but probably not. You dislike people because they're hurtful, because they step on you, because they're dishonest, because they steal from you, they manipulate you. Don't be like that. You need to understand that that person is like that because he lacks character. And remember what we said a moment ago? Character is who you really are. So when somebody is a character and they act like a character, they don't have character. So that's a person you want to learn from. Watch what they're doing and purpose. Don't do that. Do something different. Don't be like them. Number 7 is kind of the opposite. It's surround yourself with people you admire. Who is somebody you want to be like? Now, as we said in a previous video, surrounding yourself with people you admire, or surrounding yourself with anybody for that matter, anybody who's encouraging. It's not easy for somebody who is autistic because we tend to be, I hate to use the term repulsive, so, it's accurate. We tend to repel people. So they see in us, in our uncanny valley, something, that little tweak in our personality that they find repulsive. So it's hard to surround ourselves with people that we admire. But if you can, you want those people in your life. And if you can't, or even if you can, you can find them virtually through books, or through videos like you're watching now. There's a lot of places where you can work with people and expose yourself, your mind to people and their minds to you, even though they're not they're in person. So a good example of that, I think, is how this works. Is I read somewhere that children in Australia tend to speak with American accents. Autistic people, children with Asperger's, tend to speak with American accents because they surround themselves with television and they hear American accents all day long. They don't interact with other people. They're in that uncanny valley. And so that's what they pick up on. We can do the same thing, but in a positive sense. Maybe it's just television, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's a book we read, maybe it's an article we're reading, but we're exposing ourselves to these people who have positive minds, people we admire, so that becomes who we are. And I heard this somewhere else, I don't know who originated it, but they say that you are the summation of your 5 closest friends, because those people influence you. Listen to my wife on the telephone. I can almost always tell the person to whom she is speaking, with whom she is speaking, by the way she talks, because the other person influences her, and that's true of everybody. Number 8 is don't focus on money alone as wealth. By the way, nothing wrong with focusing on money when it comes to be fiscally responsible. But a lot of times we think money is happiness, and so we try to be as wealthy as we can so we can be as happy as we can, and we find out that doesn't work. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and this is all the guy was doing. He was interviewing people, a lot of them were young people, and he was asking them what makes you happy, and nearly all of them said money. And he would then ask him how much money. And one guy said, well, at least $1 million. What I've also learned is when people become millionaires and you ask them, are you happy? Typically they say, well, not completely. And then you ask what would make you more happy. And they say, another $1 million. So don't know how true that is, but you got to keep in mind that wealth is not just money. Wealth is relationships. And those of us who have autism know how rare those could be. So for us, a close, genuine relationship becomes all that more valuable. Those are the things we should value more than money. Our families, our responsibilities. Number 9 is this: listen more than you speak. And the reason is the more you listen, the more you learn. Now, sometimes speaking involves asking questions so that you can learn. But one thing I've learned in my life by listening to people is that people don't like to listen. What they do is argue. There's some people who are just, I say some people, probably 95% of the people who I encounter, they just, whatever you say, they want to argue with it. So I try to avoid those topics: religion, politics, and nowadays nutrition. They love to argue about nutrition. Most of them don't know what they're talking about. You watch YouTube videos, and I watch a lot of them on healthcare and nutrition, and the experts disagree. One of them will say you need to eat more meat, and another one says, oh, you need to cut meat totally out of your diet. Somebody says you need to cut out salt. Another guy says you got to have salt or you'll die. So what I do is I just don't touch on those topics. I want to listen, and I want to listen expressly to learn. But it's okay to talk. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that put the focus on listening. Number 10 is embrace failure as a teacher. Some things just don't work, and I think it was Thomas Edison who said, somebody said, he failed 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. And he said, no, I just found out 10,000 things that didn't work. He learned what didn't work, and he was just on a discovery tour or trip of discovery. So don't think of your failures as anything other than discoveries, finding out what doesn't work. What I have found is the road to success is paved with failures. The more you fail, the closer you get to success. So yeah, you're walking down the road. What am I stepping on here? Oh, those are failures. They're moving me forward. Number 11 is think before you respond. Somebody does something or says something that you find offensive, and if you're an Aspie, you are a person with autism, this happens to you all the time. Could be family, could be at work, wherever you're around people, they are going to be offensive. Now, this is one of the very first things we talked about, making that list when people aren't offensive, when they are positive. Because quite frankly, at least in my life, people have been more kind than they've been mean. It's just that the hateful things, the mean things stand out. But we need to learn that when they do those things that hurt us, sometimes our reaction, more than a response, our reaction is just impulsive and it can hurt us. But we shouldn't react, we should respond. But even then, we should think before we respond, if you possibly can. Sometimes you don't have time to think. Somebody punches you in the eye. I got a black eye. You can see it because somebody threw something at me. I didn't have time to respond. I didn't have time to duck. It was dark. I couldn't even see it coming. So sometimes you don't have time to respond. But when you do have time to respond, that is your greatest defense. So number 12 is be responsible. And by that I mean enable response. So do you see the word response in responsible? So when you are being responsible, you're being responsible to your family, you're being responsible at your job, you're being responsible everywhere you go. Being responsible means being accountable for yourself, and people can count on you. There's the word count and accountable, the word response and responsible. So that is a strong defense, because when people attack you, and you know neurotypical people are going to attack you, sometimes Aspies will attack you, what you need to do is be able to fall back on your responsibility. That is to say, the fact that you were responsible. Put other people, your critics, put them in a position where they have to lie about you. If they're going to trash talk you, they're going to have to lie. Don't give them any ammunition. The ammunition is yours. Number 13 is don't allow others to control your mood. What mood are you in at this very moment? How did you get in that mood? Somebody offends you, and again, this is something we've just covered, but when somebody hurts you, that kind of puts you in a bad mood, they put you in a bad mood, and you allowed them to put you in a bad mood, and that hurts. And it's not always easy to recover, but the best thing to do is be mindful that people are going to do that, and determine beforehand that no one is going to decide for me what mood I'm going to be in. That is something defensive that every person with autism can do. Number 14, we already touched on it, so we're just going to touch on it even more briefly, and that is don't react. Sometimes you got to. But by and large, we need to keep in mind that a reactive life is a life that is not in control. We don't have self-control when we're constantly reacting. Number 15 is have a variety of life goals. Now, we said earlier you need to have a plan B, as a defensive measure, but what about going forward? We have one life goal, right? Well, we need to have many life goals, because sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes more than one thing will work out. So imagine that you had multiple income streams. Would that be a problem? No, that'd be super fine, right? So you don't have just one friend. Maybe you do, maybe you don't have any, but wouldn't it be better to have multiple friends? Not too many, but a few. So what about goals in life? Things that you want to achieve. You can have more than one thing. You can aspire to, better your lot in life financially. Nothing wrong with that. You can aspire to have a decent family if you don't have a family, to be considerate to those who are family-like. You can have all these goals in your life. Have a variety of them. Doesn't hurt to maybe write them down. I'm a big guy. Well, I'm a big list guy, I should say. I was a big guy. I lost a lot of weight. But I'm a big list guy. I like to write things down. I like to journal. So, have life goals. What are your life goals? What do you want to accomplish? One of the things I want to accomplish is I want to stay fit. I'm not perfectly fit. Nobody is, but I want to stay as fit. I don't want to get any worse. Let me put it to you that way. I know age is taking over. I can't help that. But where I can help it, that's one of my life goals. Be content. This is number 16. Be content with your state, whatever state you're in. I'm not talking about Indiana. I'm not talking about California. I'm talking about your state of mind, your state of being, things that you can't, you're unchangeables. That's the way to say it, I think. Be content with those things, because you can't change them. Why would you fret over things that you can't change? I'm going to talk about fretting in just a moment. Number 17 is embrace humility. That's one thing Aspies are good at. People who are autistic were good at humility. We're very proud of it. Well, if you're proud of it, as I said in the past video, you're not humble. But in the hive mind, the neurotypical hive mind where people all think the same thing, me first, that's not humility. But they are the ones who, not all of them, but a lot of them are the ones who actually brag about how humble they are. And they will cut you down for not being humble because they're proud. What do you call that? I call it hypocrisy. But, just embrace humility. And by that, I don't mean weakness. I mean, be real. That's it. That is the essence of humility. Just be genuine. Be real. Be who you are. It's perfectly okay to be an Aspie. By the way, I don't want to not have autism. If there were a cure for autism, what would the cure be? It would be to move into the hive mind, right? I don't want to move there. I don't want to live there. The uncanny valley, the only reason it's a problem is because the people in the hive mind don't like us. I don't care what they like or don't like. I mean, I need to work with them somewhat. I want to be kind and considerate to them, but I'm perfectly happy living in the hive mind or in the uncanny valley. It's where people are real. It's where people are genuine. They don't like our genuineness because, well, it somehow disturbs them. I'm sorry. Number 18 is find solutions, not self-blame. One of the strong assets that virtually every person with autism has is he's good or she is good at finding solutions. Now, virtually all of them, there are some exceptions, but we talk about this a lot on this channel, but virtually everything that's ever been invented that wasn't created by nature was made by a person who had autism. Asperger syndrome. That's one of our strong points. So why would we not embrace that? That is our strong point. Why don't we emphasize it? I mean, why don't we make it stronger? Number 19 is ignore cynical critics, haters. If you ever watch a football game with somebody on television, I don't like football, so I don't watch it. I'll watch basketball, football. For some reason, I know I'm kind of weird, but I just, bang it into each other. I just don't get it. But, okay, so we'll say basketball. Watching a basketball game, and you notice the other guys, the other people in the room, they can tell the flaws of the players. Now, these are professional players. If you know better than they are, why aren't you making $1 million a year, throwing a ball in a hoop? Well, that's just the way people are. We're cynical, we are critical, not just them, but all of us. Advisors, as I said earlier, they contradict themselves. I was talking about nutrition a moment ago, and so you go to these advisors, even your doctors will give you different advice. I recall going to the doctor, I weighed 180 pounds, and she said, you need to stop losing weight. Okay, fine, so I lost another 40 pounds. But, they're not always right. So we need to ignore cynical critics, but don't ignore critics. I had a title of a video that some people thought it was just not a good title because it kind of touched on politics, and I tried to avoid that. And somebody left a comment to that effect, and I thought, this is a criticism, but it's a positive criticism. It's a useful criticism. So I changed the title. I changed the thumbnail. Maybe you can find it. Go back and take a look. Number 20 is this. Identify the silver lining in every circumstance. Now, keep in mind that they say that every cloud has a silver lining, to which I respond, well, then every silver lining has a cloud. If there's something good going on, I guarantee you there's something bad going on. We don't live in a perfect life. So we need to seek out those positive things, those encouraging things, those silver linings, like I said earlier. Why not make a list every time somebody is kind and considerate to you so you can refocus your brain, so you can override your hard drive that is storing all these memories of the hateful, negative things that people say to hurt you. And you overdrive that by consciously taking note of the silver lining. It's there. That doesn't mean the cloud is gone. It means the cloud is there. Good way to look at that. The way you know a cloud is there is there's a silver lining. Now I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm looking out the window. It's, what time is it? It's 5:39. And I'm looking westward, and you know what I see? I see pink clouds. I see a silver lining. Well, it's a pink lining. Out my window even as we speak. But you know what's with it? There's a cloud. I'm okay with that because clouds have silver linings, life circumstances. Every single one of them you could possibly think of has something about it that you can focus on. That's not to say to ignore the clouds. If you do, you're going to get wet. You're going to get stuck in a tornado or a rainstorm. Don't ignore those. But number 21 is don't fret. So this is the way that I like to say it. If you can't control it, fretting or worrying is another word for it, does no good. If you can't control it, why fret about it? It's not going to change anything. Okay, what if you can control it? Well, then there's no need to fret. There's no need to worry. So either way, if you can control it, fretting does no good. If you can control it, then you don't need to fret about it. There's nothing to worry about. Number 22, and we're getting to the end, is be grateful. This is not an act. This is an attitude. The act follows the attitude. So if you try to fake the attitude by creating an act, it's hypocrisy. It's not genuine. It's not real. You can do that. Neurotypical people do that all the time. They live in a fake universe. They're constantly wearing masks. And it's okay to wear a mask, because it helps you to communicate. But when it's hypocritical, that's when I think it becomes a flaw. And again, as I said earlier, make a list of things that people do that are positive. So be grateful. Make a list of things to be grateful for. Thanksgiving, we have an entire holiday in America that is dedicated, in the United States of America, that is dedicated to being grateful, being thankful for what we have. That's a good thing. If you're not happy with what you've got, I don't know who said this, but I'm quoting somebody else. If you're not happy with what you've got, you won't be happy with what you get. So happiness is not a collection of things you possess or even life circumstances. Happiness is a state of mind that you choose to have. Now, I can think of some really tough circumstances where it would be very difficult to be happy. But we touched on this earlier when we said just be content. Embrace your circumstances, particularly those circumstances that you can't change. Just be grateful. If you're not happy again with what you got, not going to be happy with what you get. Number 23. And this is one that we touched on earlier, but I'm going to make it its own exclusive point. And that is success is paved with stones of failure. Don't resent failures. Don't resent those hard times because they are there for a reason. I guarantee you, everything that you can see that was invented by people who had autism probably, when they were inventing those things, they wouldn't even exist if they didn't have failures on their way to making those inventions. If you got something out of this video, and I know you did, if you got something out of this video, or I hope you did, subscribe to our YouTube channel, then click the bell and YouTube will be notified by you that you are to be notified by them, that you want to be notified when we upload new videos, which I try to do every day, but if I can't think of anything, I don't upload a video just to be making one. But yeah, subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you think it deserves it. Don't forget to leave a comment if you got some input to add, and if you would share this on social media, that helps us a lot. And that's the best way you can say thank you, is just helping us get these videos out.